Hey there, friends. It's been a couple of weeks, but we're back, and we've got a lot to tell you about. You're listening to Idea Charger Radio. Hi there, friends, and welcome back. Wow. It's been about a 2-week hiatus that we've taken from the show here, and, it was with good reason. The first week, we sat back to just enjoy a little bit of Memorial Day weekend with friends and family, had a good time. And the following week, man, we just threw together really fast a trip that one of my clients had requested me to be on to head over to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. It was the first time for me to go travel to the Middle East and work in Dubai, and we jumped at the opportunity. So it was a bit of a scramble here, and we got a little crazy and a little behind schedule. I know you understand, and I appreciate it. And today, we're going to do a special episode sharing with you a little bit about the Success Charger's view of Dubai. So let's jump right to it. I, several years ago, took a big turn after spending about 13 years in the financial services industry and started doing leadership development training. I do a lot of this work on my own. Working with companies and individuals like yourself, working with teams that want to see the world a little bit different. And in addition to that, I also have alignment with a couple of companies that allow me the opportunity to really work as a contractor for them. And this was one of those. A couple of months back, we piloted a program with a client here in the Houston area that has a global reach. And it was pretty exciting. Because as we put the program together, it went really well when we kicked it off here in Houston, and they invited me to come with them to Dubai, where they have some operations over there. Now, one of my other colleagues is going to take the assignment in Kuala Lumpur, so I'm not getting to go to Malaysia, which I was hoping for, but that's all right, because as part of the team, you jump in, you do what you can, when you can, and we had a chance to do it. But, this show is about success, and each one of you really defines success on your own terms. And I think that's really important because, if you let somebody else define your success, you risk not really having the enjoyment in your career that really is possible. I know that I have found that. And I think you probably have too. Now, to be honest, regardless of your employment status, there's something else that sort of came to light as I got back in the saddle here in Houston this week and was visiting with some folks at another energy company here in Houston. And we were talking about whose responsibility it really is for someone's continued development. And it's really yours. You really control your future. You control more than you realize about creating opportunities for yourself to understand how to become better at what you do. And I think a big part of that is taking advantage of opportunities when they present themselves to do things and experience places and begin to look at things through a different lens of perspective. And that's kind of what we did on this trip. Now I say we because my wife actually took a week of vacation and traveled with me on this trip. She doesn't always get the chance to do that, but she did this time. And I got to tell you, we had a wonderful time. And so with this episode, I've put together some of the observations that we had about the city of Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, just some kind of overview of some of our experiences, what it was to us on that trip, and maybe just another perspective on success, because I know every time I leave the U.S. and really talk to people, I learn so much about how great the opportunities are here in our country, and it always sort of re-grounds me, if you will, in terms of understanding, where we are in the entire world. So let me start first just about the travel itself. Okay, now if you haven't done any research on this is about a 15-hour flight to get from Houston to Dubai. There's a flight every day that's available from here, as well as some other destinations to get you there. But that's pretty remarkable in and of itself. And flying over, we flew over on the economy seats. And I'm not going to lie to you. If you're going to fly economy on a long-haul flight, Emirates Airlines is probably the way to go. It was as comfortable as you could imagine. It wasn't like flying on some of the domestic U.S. airlines that you feel a little cramped. This was truly a good experience, and I could recommend that to anybody. Now, coming back, I'm not going to lie, we went ahead and stuck our hand in our own pocket and upgraded to business class. And let me tell you, if you're going to fly a 15-hour flight, if you've ever considered upgrading yourself with cash to business class, this is probably your opportunity. And I'll give you a little insight. You know, you hear about the opulence and the over-the-top nature that gets often alongside anybody that tells you about a trip to Dubai, and we'll share a little of what we saw there. But I'll tell you, you know, going over, you get a nice little amenity pack as you do on most international flights. Here's a sort of an eye cover if you want to sleep. So if there's lights on in the plane, you know, it's dark for you, and maybe a toothbrush or something. It usually comes to you in a fancy little kit, and you know, here it is. And it was, you know, pretty understated. Nice little zippered bag, had some stuff in it on the way there. Coming back though in business class, as they came back through, my wife got what looked like a small clutch bag, and I got a really nice shaving kit that when we unzipped it to actually see what all was in it, we realized it was a designer Bulgari bag. So I'm sure I paid for that. I'd like to think that it was complimentary. They were certainly nice about it, but I think it was a different kind of complimentary. But no, we paid for it, the upgrade. But you know, you just don't get that. That's a long way from paying for your own box of snacks on a United flight in the middle of the night back from San Francisco, like I did a few weeks ago. But I want to jump in and share with you a little bit about what we saw with the city. Now, when you hear about Dubai, you naturally think of the architecture. Now, shortly before we left, one of my Facebook friends posted a photo he'd found of Dubai that sort of showed you Dubai in 1981, and then again that same view of Dubai from about a year or two ago. And it was remarkable. The only thing consistent was a small, what today would be called a mid-rise building with the Toyota logo at the top. And what was remarkable was how much this city has really grown and how remarkably fast it's happened. So, you know, certainly there's some great architecture there, but I'm going to start with this idea. There are really sort of two Dubais. There's old Dubai, okay? Now that's kind of the Deira area, or what some people call Bur Dubai. That's the area where you'll find that what you expect if you're watching, you know, a movie in the Middle East about like a James Bond type movie where there's the bazaar or the outdoor trading area, those kinds of things. That's where you're going to find some of the traditional Dubai gold souks, textile souks, spice souks. We actually toured this area at night, which gave us sort of a unique perspective. It was definitely different than any place I've ever been. We were pretty cautious looking around. I mean, you're in a foreign place. You're in a very different scenario. It's not like going to the mall here in the U.S. anywhere. And we never really felt unsafe, but at the same time, we were very cautious as we walked through. But, you know, anytime you're going someplace that's somewhat dimly lit and you're walking through and the hallways and the alleyways and walkways were kind of dark. There were people milling about, but the stores were kind of beginning to close down. I say the stores, they were like little mercantile fronts that were there. But we still walked through and got to see it. The old Dubai area was, though, the only place that I was really ever approached by a beggar of any kind. And, you know, the guy kind of followed me around for a little bit. I mean, clearly, you know, I'm 6'3". I'm a pretty big dude. And you know, my wife liked to point out that, you know, she said, hey, I've got, you know, freckles and light skin. And you know, certainly we stood out as tourists as we walked through there. But as soon as I sort of firmly turned around and looked at this guy and said, no, he backed off, and that was the end of it. And it wasn't too bad of an experience. Now, we did get to take one of what they call an Abra, which is a water taxi. That was fun. It was pretty cheap. The first one we got on was kind of, you know, big and fancy and like any other tour boat you might get on anywhere. But coming back, we got back on a real small one. It's this rickety old looking boat that, you know, I don't know, by U.S. standards, I'm sure would never be allowed. But that was really cool because we got to see, you know, the city was kind of lit up at night. We got to see the new area, the old area. as we went down the Dubai Creek and got to see that. It only cost us, it was almost nothing. The cash in Dubai is what they call dirhams, and roughly it's probably about 4 to 1. So for every 100 dirhams is probably about 26 US dollars. So it goes a long way. And this ride, I'm not kidding you, it was like 1 or 2 dirhams to get across. So it was pennies, right? It was very, very inexpensive, but it added something neat. It was something unique. It was late in the week for us when we did that, and we had a chance to go through and check it out. Now, the other thing that was remarkable as we went through the Dubai Creek Harbor was the number of old ships that we saw. And I say ships because, these are old, kind of rickety-looking boats, and I kind of got to look at it, and I was like, man, there's just mounds of stuff in there. And as we looked even closer, it was like stuff not even in boxes. It might have been wrapped, but it was like furniture and goods and, maybe stacked up on the side of the harbor there, just right there on the dock, might be stacks and stacks of like air conditioning units or dishwashers or anything like that. But, the people that were there, it looked like something like when you see an old Disney cartoon, like from the 40s, and it's showing you like people in traditional Middle Eastern, almost like pajamas kind of looks like. And maybe these guys were from like India, Pakistan, those kind of areas, with kind of a turban on their head and moving around. And it was just really interesting that these were the people that were doing shipping. It wasn't like the modern giant ships and shipping containers that we see so much more accustomed to in this part of the world. Certainly different than the ships I would see in the Houston Ship Channel when I used to spend a lot of time down there. But it was interesting. It looked like something from maybe 1,000 years ago, and we snapped a couple of pictures. By the way, I've posted a bunch of photos from the trip to my Instagram account, which is at Cooksey Connects on Instagram. So if you're curious, go back and take a look. I know I did a series called Bicycles of Dubai. A lot of them were shot in this area of the city. As well as I think there's a picture of some of the folks unloading one of the boats there. So you can kind of check it out. It was really neat. But the other side of it is what we call New Dubai. New Dubai is what you think of when you think of Dubai. It's modern, it's clean, it's state-of-the-art, it's big, dare I say, over the top in a number of ways. So a couple notable elements about that. There were some huge malls in Dubai. Now, I could take or leave the shopping, okay? But it was sort of an interesting time while we were there, and I'll explain that as we get into that a little farther in the show today. But the malls were pretty fantastic, and what was really interesting, we went specifically to the Dubai Mall, which is different from the Mall of the Emirates, which we actually did not make it to. That's where Ski Dubai, the big indoor snow skiing place is. We didn't get a chance to get by there. It just didn't fit into the schedule this trip. But the malls were great. Dubai Mall was full of lots of really amazing art. There's like a giant waterfall inside the mall that had some, life-sized cast, full-sized men diving on the side of it. And I've got some remarkable photos of that. And some of the other found art just in the architecture and some of the other design elements of the mall really made it remarkable. We were there pretty early in the morning, and there was a lot of natural light that was coming in, and we got some fantastic photos. So that was kind of a fun part of going out and exploring the mall. If you've been to a large mall somewhere like the Galleria here in Houston or some other places, maybe Mall of America might be something that maybe was a little bigger. I don't know, but this is pretty darn big, and it was remarkable to at least see while we were there. And they're certainly proud of it. Everybody wants to tell you, oh, have you been to the malls yet? And I had to stop and remind myself, that's a part of the world that maybe hasn't seen malls and architecture and other hotels and the grandiose scale of what we've seen here in the U.S., particularly out in places like Las Vegas and other tourist areas, the Bahamas, places like that, where you see these giant resorts. Dubai is kind of one of those places where they've been building those types of things. I don't think you typically find places like that in this part of the world, at least from my initial on the surface research. Now, if that's something that you've seen, something that you found, something that you know about a little pocket of the world, a lot of the locals seem to think that Oman was a great place to go visit. They said the amazing coast there has got mountains on one side and really lush green, beautiful beachside, relaxing places you can go. We didn't get over there either, but if you know about some places like that, I'd love to hear from you because I am planning to head back to the area a little bit later this year, and perhaps we'll have a chance to get out and see a little bit more. I don't know yet. The city itself is pretty easy to get around. If I had to say anything, I'd say taxis are pretty cheap. We would take taxis even from the airport to the hotel, then hotels on down to the resort where we stayed with my client, put us up for a few days where we had our meetings. It was a pretty remote area, but a cab ride for less than $30. Look, it cost you $75 to go from Hobby Airport to Intercontinental Airport here in Houston. We never paid that much, I don't think, for a cab ride at all that we took. And we took some pretty long ones. Took an hour and a half, 2 hours to get down to Abu Dhabi when we went there. And then, of course, coming back to town, those kind of things, back into Dubai, getting to the airport. It was never great expense. But, the cab drivers, the cabs are clean. The people are extremely polite. They're uniformed cab drivers. That was a nice change. But they smell like a taxi cab anywhere as you go. But we met some really cool people, and we would talk to some of the cab drivers. And one of the young men that we met was a cab driver who was from Nepal. Another place that's a bucket list visit for me. He certainly confirmed it's a beautiful place, and then also let us know it's a tough place to make a living. He was in Dubai because of the opportunities he had as a cab driver. He'd signed a 5-year contract with the cab company to drive for them, but had admitted to us as well that the cab industry has been hit by Uber. So, you hear about Uber here in the U.S. Certainly, you were hearing about Uber in Dubai. We didn't use Uber in Dubai. We wanted to, I don't know if we really wanted to take a cab, but it was just as easy to hail a cab wherever we were, so we did. And we did that. And as we asked around, really the price difference was pretty nominal between the two. Although we might have, ridden in a little bit nicer vehicles and maybe met some different people. But, we felt cabs were fine. So that's what we used while we were there. Now, I did notice, though, we did open up the Uber app and take a look. And Uber actually offers in Dubai Uber Chopper. Yeah, you heard me right. And I'm not talking about like West Coast choppers or a Harley Davidson custom bike. I'm talking about a helicopter. Now, I never was any place when I actually had the app open that I could find a price quote. I was really curious, but I did find that it was an offer. So, if you're a VIP Uber user, if you like the Uber Black or Uber XL, you like the bigger vehicles, please know when you go to Dubai, you have the option to add yourself a chopper to that experience. And had I found it and had I seen what the price was, who knows? I might have gotten excited about it and asked the wife if we could do it, just to say that we had Ubered a helicopter at one time. We met cab drivers from other places, Pakistan, Afghanistan, different places. The only time I ever felt like I was kind of trying to get hustled by a cab driver was the very last ride we took. There was a Russian cab driver we had who tried to pump me for a little extra cash when we got there. I held my ground, as I had sort of learned the Dubai way, and a lot of times is that everything is negotiable. I would say everything, just about everything. One of the hotels I was at tried to jam us up on an extra fee for having a second person in the room when we had were using my client's arranged per room fee to charge. But when I showed up with the wife, they tried to charge me some extra money. We got that reversed, but it was a big to-do. Even the photographs that you might take when we did our Arabian desert adventure. The last night we were there, we went out and crashed the sand dunes. Got some beautiful sunset photos in the Arabian desert outside of Dubai. Then we had a wonderful dinner We rode a camel, all the cool stuff that you do when you go out to the desert, right? A falcon show, that was pretty neat. That was a cultural experience that we got to take in. Falcons have been used for hunting in that area, or had been for quite some time. And we got a chance to see a demonstration of that, which was a lot of fun. But, we bought a couple of the photos that the photographers took of us at the end. And I found that you could even negotiate for the price of those at the end, which was really remarkable as we went. But, I held my ground with the cab driver at the airport. I said, look, you didn't tell me, but I looked at the meter when we pulled up. This is what it was. That's what I'm paying you. It was a really awkward exchange. And as he drove off, I started to wonder if maybe I'd, in my lack of familiarity with the currency, maybe I overpaid him. But I got to think that he just didn't strike me as the kind of guy that would have ever told me if I'd overpaid him, because he seemed to be hustling me for a little more. A couple things that I'd never noticed while I was there. There was never an overabundance of police presence, but you didn't have to look far to find a police officer or a security officer anywhere. Again, there's a tremendous amount of order there, and I think as we get into a discussion about the culture of Dubai, we'll see a little bit with that as well. But I had my eyes on a swivel looking for those Lamborghini police cars. Never saw them. Never did. In fact, anytime I saw a police vehicle at all, it was usually something like a Ford Escape or something along those lines of a small SUV or a pretty ordinary police car as far as I was there. But I thought that was interesting because according to Facebook, I should have seen some gold-plated Lamborghinis with police bars on top. I'm sure they're around somewhere in the city. We just flat didn't see them. Now, the cultural aspect of the trip for me was probably one of the most enjoyable parts of this. I mean, I am an amateur architecture enthusiast. I'm kind of geeky when it comes to some of that stuff. And certainly, we did some of the normal things that you might do as you get around and explore the city. We got to go see things like the Burj Khalifa, which is the largest or tallest building in the world. That was fun. We went out on the observation deck on the 124th floor. Didn't see a lot of need to go up to the 150 whatever floor to observe again, but certainly saw enough there from 124 that it was pretty remarkable. That building was impressive, definitely impressive and worth the trip to say we'd been there. Also got over to see the Burj Al Arab Hotel while we were there. That's the big, only 7-star hotel in the world. Looks like a giant sailboat. Sits right there just off the coast. I say it's on a man-made island. It's, 100 yards off the coast there. And that was phenomenal. That was a cool experience. My wife was able to work out some dinner reservation for us there. That was fairly inexpensive. I mean, for 2 people for $100, that was pretty good. And we had a remarkable experience there, and I'll get into what some of that was here in just a minute. But again, culturally, the UAE is a Muslim country by and large. There are other religions that are there. I did find in some of my early research that there were some Christian churches, Buddhist temples, and some Hindu temples as well that were there. But for the most part, it's a Muslim country, and that's really underscores a lot of the cultural expectations and laws of the area. So here's some, in no particular order, some observations. For all of you that are big fans of bacon, this is probably not your country. We did find pork in a few places, but it was hard to come by. A lot of times when you found sausage or pork, it was usually a chicken sausage or a turkey. It wasn't near spiced the way we might enjoy it here in the U.S. But, it is what it is. It was not impossible, but it was challenging. It just as a general observation, and maybe it was some of the places that we ate, but the beef always seemed to be really overcooked and kind of stringy. So that was a little disappointing too. And I don't know if that's just because it's all imported. Probably had been frozen at some point in the transport, but that was interesting. I would imagine at more of the higher end upscale restaurants, you might have had a better experience than we did there, but that was kind of interesting for us. But I will tell you that the traditional food of the area, Middle Eastern food, was pretty good. We had a good experience with that, and it was good. It was plentiful. It was pretty easy to find, and we enjoyed that. You get a lot of dates over there, like palm dates. So there was that kind of food. A lot of shawarmas and food that I typically. We found some tabboulehs and other Lebanese food, that kind of thing. That was pretty easy to find for us. And in traditional fare that you would find anywhere. We had a couple of hamburgers and food like that while we were there as well. You can't eat fancy all the time, but my wife seemed to notice that just she felt a little bit better. Like maybe some of the food was not jam packed with some of the additives that we typically find here, so I thought that was kind of an interesting note from the trip as well. Now, this particular trip coincided with the beginning of the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. So we left here. Actually, we landed on Sunday evening in Dubai, and Monday was the first day of Ramadan. So that was a day we had originally scheduled to go take a visit to the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi, which is remarkable, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That tour was not available on Monday because it was the first day of Ramadan, and there was a lot of stuff, as you can imagine, that was going on there from a religious standpoint. So they took that day off, and we went later in the week. But what was interesting about Ramadan, and I'm not Muslim, so I've not had a lot of experience with Ramadan and what it was like. But in a nutshell, during this period of time, those that practice the faith often observe a fast during the day, which means, as I learned from a few folks in my class, they may get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and have essentially a breakfast. Or I believe it's called a suhar, if I got that correctly. If I've gotten that incorrectly, I hope someone will drop me a quick message. But the suhar is that meal you'd have really, really early in the morning, and then they'd have some morning prayers, and then from sunrise until sunset, no food, water, or beverages of any kind, not even chewing gum. I mean, nothing during that period of time. And it was really interesting because we noticed in the newspapers there'd be articles, reminding people about, hey, it is hot here. You will get dehydrated, so take it real easy. The government allows people to work an abbreviated workday, those that are observing the fast, to work traditionally 8-hour day with no pay cut during that month. That was mandated. Thought that was interesting. A lot of the restaurants were closed during the day. As you can imagine, if most of your people are fasting, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. But given that it was a city that caters well to expats and those of other faiths, and particularly more Western and European travelers, there were some restaurants that were open, but when you found them, the food was served sort of behind a curtain. We found a restaurant at the Dubai Mall on Monday. We were hanging out there, and we were getting really hungry, and we were trying to find a place to sneak into, and we noticed that there was some curtains up toward the back of a restaurant. And so we walked into the store and went through the curtains. Behind it were all of the Americans and Europeans and anybody else. Now, we didn't see a lot of Americans on our trip, but certainly everybody who was not observing the fast was in there eating lunch, because it was one of the few restaurants that were open in the mall that day. If you could find food at another restaurant, it might have been available only for takeaway, which I thought was interesting. And it would, even like a coffee shop, if they were serving, there'd be a sticker that reminded you that this was a time that you are not really allowed to eat or drink in public, and you had to go find a private place. So, people might find a coffee shop and then get a beverage and go disappear. I know my wife and I a couple of times would have bottles of water in our bag, and we wanted to be respectful of where we were, not create a big stir. So we'd go hide in the bathroom stall, and chug a bottle of water, just trying not to get dehydrated, or get down a candy bar or something to try to stave off some of our own hunger as we were there. I thought that was interesting. And something else was there was no real live concerts, no live music, no significant sporting events. That kind of stuff was going on. We really would have enjoyed that. experience. A horse race, a camel race. These are all things you can do there. Even a soccer match would have been awesome, but we just didn't have that opportunity afforded to us while we were there. So maybe I'm hoping on a future trip we'll get to take that in. I think that's a good way to find out about the people, is to go watch them in some sort of a big public venue like that and check it out. Overall, the city was very calm. It was, Dubai is a city that by Middle Eastern or Muslim standards is pretty liberal. But even that said, it was pretty buttoned down. And you don't see a lot of riffraff. You don't notice people making a lot of big noise. I mean, that gets quashed pretty quick. We never, it felt calm and peaceful while we were there. And of course, we're wanting to be pretty respectful of what the local rules and regs were. Now, despite this conservatism and the fact that it's illegal to transport in the city of Dubai or in the United Arab Emirates, alcohol was not hard to find in a hotel. So if you wanted to grab a beer, a glass of wine, a cocktail, that was never really a problem for us. Although I was told that there was, my wife seemed to notice that some of the hotels were granted by the government the ability to serve some alcohol, at least by the swimming pools and a few places during the day. During Ramadan, which is, I understand it, quite a departure from what's been available in years past. The World Expo 2020 is scheduled to be in Dubai in just a few years, and I think her understanding was that the government's trying to show that they can be amenable and flexible to those who travel there that may not be residents of the area or observing some of those ideas. So I thought that was interesting. But it was pretty easy for us to find a beverage here and there. You may have had to go into a tented area, a private area. That was, at least that's what we found at the hotel when we got into the city the last couple of days we were there, versus the more remote place we'd been early on that was a private resort. Where my wife actually said she was able to order a beverage out by the swimming pool and enjoy that. I don't know. I was in a meeting. I was teaching some classes that day, so I didn't get the pool experience. But she got the full-on holiday vacation, so she was happy. It was all good. For all that I've noticed, though, it was nice to have my wife with me because she was able to pick up on the vibe, really, that was a little from a woman's point of view. And some of the things that she shared to me is, she would notice even more quickly than I did, although, being from the U.S., you don't see it as often. You typically see people in the traditional hijab or abaya, which is some of the robes that you often see. I never saw like the full-on burqa, although I did see plenty of people with a hijab or some women that may have had their faces covered, just their eyes showing. But I never saw the complete, where you look through the mesh and the whole thing. But that's fine. It didn't seem to bother me there. Although at the hotel, it was interesting. There was a list of permitted beachwear. One of the options was something I didn't know about previously, called a burkini. I didn't see one live, so I can't tell you what that was like. But you can Google that and check it out. It's kind of interesting how you could have a bathing suit that still keeps someone true to the modesty aspects of the Muslim faith. For those that are certainly strict observers of that, we didn't see any. In fact, we saw a lot of European travelers. So, we saw guys in their Speedos and plenty of people in their tiny bikinis and that types of things. But we did see some folks that would wear like a below the knee swim trunks. And oddly, there was a girl that was about 10 years old. I don't know where she was from. It was kind of uncomfortable for us because she was topless swimming around as a like 8, 9, 10-year-old, which I thought was really strange. You wouldn't see that in the United States. I don't know where she was from. So that was kind of strange, particularly in a place that was so buttoned down, to have seen that. Anyway, as a father of a young girl, that was a little uncomfortable for me, to see that. I know that we're always pretty well keeping an eye on our kiddo and keeping her covered up. But, we're in another place, another part of the world, and there's a lot of different cultures that melded together where we were, and I guess that was just bound to happen. So, the other thing my wife would kind of point out to me is it was pretty evident that men were the ones that had the respect for whatever reason. So if we were trying to make a decision about something or take care of something at the hotel, typically people would address me first. Again, the hotels are a little more amenable, but even out in the city, she never felt like she was held back, but certainly felt like she got stared at a lot, really got eyeballed quite a bit. I know that she didn't look like a lot of the folks that are from the area, but that was a little uncomfortable for her. She doesn't like to attract attention like that, and she did find that as part of her experience as well. So I thought I would sort of add that as well. But that said, if I was in a meeting and she was trying to plan out some of our excursions or make a reservation somewhere, being a woman, calling and taking care of that was never an issue for her. She didn't run into any problems there. It is what it is. Now, one place it became abundantly obvious, though, and I think it's rightfully so, was at the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi. We did make it down there later in the week. That place was phenomenal. It was really amazing. The architecture is over the top. It's a incredibly huge facility. We took tons of pictures of that. It was remarkable. And one of the things, though, that really strikes you is when you show up, you first have to stop in the visitor center. Now, I was wearing some khaki pants and a colored golf shirt, and guard looks at me and he goes, "Yep, you're fine." But my wife, who was still wearing a long kind of a maxi dress, not too tight, not revealing, very conservative, still was required to go put on an abaya, which is this black robe with a hood, and keep her head covered. She didn't have to cover her face, but I got to tell you, it was about 100 degrees and really humid that day, and she was hot. Like temperature hot. I mean, she's my wife. I think she's hot all the time. But, the temperature hot. And she found that to be a little overbearing for at least the outdoor part of the tour as we went through. But, it was a taste of the culture. And, admittedly so, that one of the really important aspects of the Muslim faith is the modesty aspect of it. And certainly that's a big part of it. And being at a holy site, we certainly understood that those were the rules, and that's how we went. And it wasn't anything we were wanting to fight as we went through that. But at the same time, it was just an interesting observation. So here's a little bit about the mosque. If you've been curious, we've learned it somewhere the construction estimates somewhere between $2 and $3 billion with a B to construct, and I think if I remember correctly, it took somewhere around 11 years to build it. Interestingly enough, Sheikh Zayed, who was sort of spearheading the project, he passed away about 2 years before it was actually completed. Now, he is buried there on site at the mosque. It's one of the few places that you're not allowed to take any photos, and that's fine. I mean, it's someone's gravesite, and I certainly can understand that. But it was just an interesting note there. A couple things about that. Again, as an architecture geek, I mean, there were well over 1,000 columns. The architecture was simply amazing. The work that was done primarily by Indian craftsmen to put that thing together was fantastic. It was unbelievably clean, unbelievably I can't even describe it. Just imagine this giant white mosque with a beautiful blue background of a sky behind it, sitting up on a hill. That's kind of what you got. And it would really almost just take your breath away to see it. And we saw some of the largest chandeliers I've ever seen in my life that were just, dripping with Swarovski crystals. Again, we've got some remarkable photos that we've put on our Instagram feed if you're interested in taking a look at some of that, or you can just Google it. I'm sure there's some great photos out there of the Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi. The tour was free. We found the staff to be pretty accommodating, but security was plentiful. They would allow you to take photos. They were a little sticky about video if you happen to be shooting some video. I'm not sure what that was about, but thought that was certainly interesting. Again, we took tons of photos, had a really nice time, and it was certainly worth going down to take a look at that. So overall, we didn't get to do everything we might have enjoyed while we were in Dubai. We didn't make it to the Mall of the Emirates or Ski Dubai, but that would have been fun. Ferrari World is a popular stop down in Abu Dhabi. We just didn't have time to get there. But I'll tell you, we had a wonderful cross-section of the city. It felt like it was a good trip, a good balance of new and old Dubai. It went and had some experiences, went and haggled with somebody in the textile souk to get my daughter a sort of a little Arabian princess dress, which she was super excited to get this new pink dress when she got home, that we'd brought it to her. But it was a 15-hour flight home. We collapsed and slept about another 16 hours when we got home, and then picked up our daughter the next day. She'd been staying with her grandparents, and it was a long week, but it was a fantastic trip. So certainly, we got to see the city's surface. And, if any of you have had a chance to spend more time in Dubai, I would imagine you may have had a slightly different approach. And the comments that I shared here today are really just based on our experience. Overall, it was great. I would go back. Looks like I'm going to have that opportunity to go back this fall. And I'm excited about it. The people I met were fantastic. The city is beautiful. It's remarkable. What the leaders there, the vision that was had for the city of Dubai. It truly is a city that was built for expats to do business. And we visited during a somewhat muted or more quiet time there during Ramadan. It is a city that still has its own remarkable vibrance, if not a flavor of over the top. Sometimes, if you took Rodeo Drive and Las Vegas sans the casinos, and a little bit of the Bahamas and smashed them all together and had a love child, I think you'd find Dubai. And it was pretty impressive, as we could say. It's a hyper growth of a business fueled city. Everywhere we looked, there was another building or a bunch of buildings going up. And just laying on the beach at our hotel, in any direction that you looked out into the water, there's these man-made islands, Palm Island, which you've probably seen, and some of the others in the area. As far as you can see, more hotels, more residences, more business buildings, and just going up everywhere. It was just truly remarkable. It's a city that admittedly is feeling a little of the pinch of the downturn of just the global economy right now, but by world standards, I'd say Dubai is doing just fine. And I'm looking forward to the trip. So as we kind of draw this episode to a close, I would just like to say, as part of my own business model, where I work directly with companies and teams and success-minded people like you one-on-one, I also deliver leadership workshops as a contractor. And for me, part of that success is that I get to sort of set my own schedule. I get to take advantage of trips like this, go see other parts of the world, and get around the country and get exposed inside lots of different companies and see, what they do and how they think and how they live and breathe and operate. And for me, that's tremendously interesting. Whenever I can, I'll mix in a little bit of vacation with work. I do that pretty often as I travel about. Maybe that's something that's of interest to you. And I hope if it is that you find a way to really marry that together. Take your curiosities and blend it with your career. And when you can get out and explore those things and begin to mix and mingle, that to me is the balance that people seem to be looking for. And I hope that you find that regardless of your current work status or situation. So, we'll leave you with this. What is your balance, or what is your vision for a balanced life? How do you define success? What kind of life experiences are important to you? All of those things are possible if you're willing to do the work. I encourage you to share your thoughts and comments on the website. Stop by our Facebook page at facebook.com/successchargerpodcast. Follow us on Twitter at IdeaCharger, or drop us a line, podcast@successchargerpodcast.com. Certainly want to hear from you and hear what's going on in your worlds. We're back on track. We're going to come back very quickly, hopefully next week, with another interview. Get right back into the swing of things. Thanks for letting us take a couple of weeks off. We're glad to be back. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks, Success Chargers. Get out there and make a difference this week. If you enjoyed what you just heard, please post your 5-star review and subscribe to Success Charger today. Your future